Oh, you're here. Good. I was hoping for company. You see, I've got stories, dark ones, chilling ones, the kind that keep you up at night. Mythical creatures, curses, horrors you can't escape. Shall we begin? Don't worry, I won't bite. Much.
3 a.m. The lights of fast food paradise stood out like a glaring beacon in the darkness. The silent street outside was disturbed only by the occasional hum of passing vehicles. Jay stood behind the counter, staring at the clock on the wall. Sleepiness crept in, his eyelids drooping as exhaustion gnawed at him. Business was as slow as ever tonight. Apart from a drunk man slumped over a table in the corner, the place was completely empty. Ding-ling. The wind chime jingled softly as the door was pushed open. Jay instinctively looked up and saw a man in a black trench coat walking in. He was tall and thin, wearing a black hat pulled low over his face, his hands covered in black leather gloves. He looked like a shadow peeled right out of the night. "Welcome," Jay said mechanically. The man didn't respond. He simply walked up to the counter and, in a deep voice, said, "A double beef burger. No ketchup." Jay hesitated for a moment. It wasn't strange to have someone ordering a burger at this hour, but something about this man felt off. His gaze never met Jay's. Instead, his eyes were fixated on something behind the counter, as if he were watching something invisible to others. "All right, please wait a moment." Jay snapped out of his daze and turned toward the kitchen to prepare the order. But deep down, unease stirred. Instinctively, he glanced back. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the man still standing there, unmoving, his hat casting a shadow over his face as he stared fixedly at a dark corner of the restaurant. An inexplicable tension hung in the air. Jay quickly put together the burger and placed it on the counter. "Here's your order." He tried to keep his tone light, attempting to ease the unsettling atmosphere. The man paused for a moment, then slowly reached out his gloved hand to take the burger. Without a word, he turned and walked toward the corner of the restaurant, settling into a seat. And then, ding-ling, the wind chime rang again. Another customer entered. This time it was a woman in a gray trench coat. Her long hair was disheveled and her face was deathly pale, as if she had just escaped from something terrifying. She stepped into the restaurant but didn't approach the counter right away. Instead, she scanned the room quickly. When her gaze landed on the man in the corner eating his burger, her pupils shrank instantly. Jay noticed her reaction right away. "Can I get you anything?" he asked cautiously. The woman didn't respond. Instead, she lowered her voice and asked, "Has anything unusual happened here tonight?" Jay's chest tightened. He instinctively glanced toward the man in the corner. At that moment, the man slowly lifted his head, revealing a strange smile. "Were you looking for me?" the man asked in a low, amused tone. The woman's face turned ghostly white. She instinctively took a step back, her fingers trembling slightly. Jay's heartbeat quickened. His instincts screamed at him. Something was seriously wrong between these two. "You two know each other?" he asked cautiously. The woman didn't answer. Her eyes remained locked on the man, filled with unmistakable fear. The man, however, casually took another bite of his burger and smirked. "Not exactly, but I suppose you could say we're colleagues." The woman's breath grew shallow. Her hand slowly reached into her pocket, searching for something. Jay could feel the tension in the air rising to an unbearable peak. The man exhaled softly and stood up. His smile faded, replaced by a chilling expression. "Relax," he murmured. "We're just doing our jobs." The next second, his hand slipped into his coat and pulled out a razor-sharp boning knife. The blade gleamed under the fluorescent lights. "You—" Jay's blood turned to ice. He stumbled back in fear. The woman's face was ashen. She suddenly pulled something out of her pocket, a photo, and slammed it onto the counter. "This man is a serial killer. The police have been hunting him all over the city." Jay's gaze dropped to the photograph, and there it was, the face of the very man standing in front of him. His heartbeat went completely out of rhythm. Before he could react, the man had already lunged toward the woman, knife flashing through the air. The woman was ready. She dodged to the side, her hand flicking out, revealing a hidden folding knife which she stabbed toward the man without hesitation. Shh! The man was fast, but not fast enough. The blade sliced through his sleeve, leaving a deep gash on his arm. Blood seeped through his black glove. "You're tougher than I thought," the man muttered, licking his lips. There was a twisted glint in his eyes, as if he were enjoying this. Jay stood frozen, his brain struggling to process the chaos unfolding before him. "What are you waiting for?" the woman snapped. "Grab a knife from the kitchen, now!" Jay jolted back to his senses. He spun around and bolted into the kitchen, fumbling for the nearest kitchen knife. But just as he wrapped his fingers around the handle, a cold hand clamped down on his shoulder. Jay's heart almost stopped. Slowly, he turned his head. The man was already behind him, his lips curled into a terrifying grin. "Thanks for handing me a knife," he murmured. The next second, his other hand seized Jay's throat, slamming him against the wall. "Ugh!" Jay gasped, struggling to breathe. The man's grip tightened. His fingers were cold, like iron clamps around Jay's neck. "Your blood," the man whispered, eyes dark with madness. "It smells delicious." Thwack. A sharp pain shot through the man's body. His eyes widened in shock. Slowly, he looked down. A kitchen knife was now embedded deep in his backside. The woman stood behind him, gripping the handle, and gave it a hard twist. "Arr!" The man howled in pain, collapsing onto the floor, his blood pooling beneath him. Jay staggered away, gasping for air. "Call the police," the woman shouted. Jay fumbled for his phone, his hand shaking as he dialed 911. His voice trembled. "Hello? Emergency. Someone's trying to kill me. Send help. Now." The police arrived soon after and took the man away. Jay stood at the entrance of the fast food joint, still trembling. His heart had yet to settle. "Forget about tonight," the woman said beside him. Her voice was quiet but firm. Jay frowned and turned to look at her. Suspicion flickered in his eyes. "You and him," he hesitated. "What's your connection?" The woman smiled faintly and patted her pocket, where an old yellowed piece of paper seemed to be tucked away. "He was once my partner," she murmured. Her gaze was deep, unreadable. "And I used to be in the same line of work." Jay's pupils contracted. A chill ran down his spine. The woman turned and walked into the night. At the street corner, she paused and glanced back at him. "You survived tonight," she said softly. "But tell me this. Do you really think a true hunter lets their prey escape so easily?" And with that, she disappeared into the darkness. Jay stood frozen. He turned back toward the glass window of the restaurant. Under the dim lights, his reflection stared back at him. And behind him, in the glass, a different man stood there, watching him, smiling at him.